Hello, my name is Emily Porter. I'm a PhD student at the University of Washington. I'm here today to discuss research performed with my co-authors, Dr. Krafft and Dr. Keegan, on our work, Visual Narratives and Collective Memory across peer-produced accounts of contested sociopolitical events. Since time is limited, I'm only going to cover this work at a very high level. Culturally shared recollections or collective memories play a significant role in shaping the perception and interpretation of current events. Images are powerful tools in this process. They document important events, communicate complex messages, and symbolize shared values. Culture influences the way that we perceive and assign meaning to imagery, and in turn, imagery also influences culture by shaping political outcomes and social movements. As more people engage in online discourse and citizen journalism, it has become clear images of political crises often elicit strong and divergent reactions about how well they represent the grievances, actors, and consequences of major turning points in a country's political history. Wikipedia provides a unique environment to examine the differences in rhetoric across controversial, historic, and culturally ingrained political events because it requires the consolidation of these events into a single authoritative narrative for each language edition. Broadly, this framing led us to hypothesize that those that experience a particular coup or who share collective memories about that event would document that event differently than those that did not. We analyzed 761 images across 1,164 articles about coups d'etat in 97 language editions and created a tripartite network composed of languages, images, and articles. Examining image sharing behaviors, we identified 3 different structural patterns within the network that characterize typical image usage across languages. In order to better understand the variation captured in these images, we created a 46-item typology to classify these items and images and cluster them into themes. This was followed by 2 case studies examining the themes and image framing, and finally conducted 4 quantitative analyses clustering image themes by language usage at the article level. Taken together, these analyses have led to the development of a novel method for detecting divergent perspectives of culturally tethered events through imagery. As I mentioned previously, we identified 3 different structural patterns within the image sharing network that characterize typical image usage across languages. The first structure is the bloom, where a single central image is used across multiple articles in multiple languages, suggesting that this image may distinctively capture an event to the exclusion of any other images. Clusters are characterized by several images being used across multiple articles in the same subset of languages. And finally, the monoculture in brown captures images used exclusively by a single language across multiple articles, demonstrating the salience of these images within this language edition, as well as blind spots in other languages coverage. The image on the left was used widely across multiple language editions, while the image on the right appears predominantly in Slavic language editions. Looking at the languages clustered by image codes, we see 4 large clusters. Of the 44 languages with an article about this event, 35 occur in cluster 0. Their co-occurrence in this cluster reflect the bloom pattern discussed on the previous slide, where identical images or images with similar themes are used. The single member of cluster 1 is Russian. This outlier is an example of a monoculture using unique types of imagery to document Russian history, distinctive from other languages' historical accounts. Coups are typically domestically situated political events embedded in cultural identity. Languages tend to cluster themselves into camps. Because culture and collective memory are tightly intertwined, we would expect that those that experienced a catastrophic socio-political event, such as a coup, to assign meaning to imagery about that event differently than those who do not take part in that cultural experience. And indeed we do. Insider languages, those that are more closely tied to the history, cultures, and states where these events occurred, tend to display visual narratives closely aligned with one another. These narratives appeared at odds with and distinct from outsider languages, those which had few or weak historical, cultural, or geographical ties to an event. Our findings suggest that these patterns may be a useful indication of divergent narratives and framings of an event. These analyses form a novel methodological framework for uncovering culturally divergent perspectives of political crises through imagery on Wikipedia.